Y'all saw Sana Lathan get clowned in Love and Basketball, but have y'all seen her become a fool for Wesley Snipes? This is called disappearing acts because as a black father myself, it's my favorite hobby. A singer named Zora enters the city to get a new apartment. Frankie, the guy who worked on her apartment, tries to rizz her up, but she ain't buying it. After helping her bring in her things, he checks her out and smiles at her foreign American assets. Zora is tired and asks Frankie to come back the next day to help finish setting things up. He obliges thinking he finna get something extra. The next day, Frankie meets his boss, Vinny, to get assigned a job, but learns there are no open jobs. Meanwhile, Zora works as a music teacher at a high school. She gets home later that day and waits for Frankie to show up, but he doesn't. She bumps into Frankie on her way back from getting food. Frankie apologizes for wasting her time and offers to set up the apartment immediately. He is quite fast with his hands as he finishes setting up the whole place within minutes. Zora offers him a drink, and a conversation begins where Frankie talks about his career goals. Zora's feeling him at this point since he has big dreams, and I'm sure he got other big things too. The following evening, Zora hangs out with her friends, Portia and Claudette. When Zora speaks about Frankie, Portia doesn't care for Frankie since he practices homosexuality. Claudette has a different mindset even though she's dating a rich guy. Claudette is the type of friend who secretly sabotages you, making you date a dusty broke man. Afterwards, Zora sees Frankie standing outside her apartment. He'd been craving for her kitty cat. When she asks what he is doing there, he mentions that he is waiting for her. Seeing him up close makes her kitty twitch, so she invites him over to spend quality time. While getting drinks from the fridge, Frankie approaches and gives her some of his whipped cream. Oh boy, that scene was steamy. As days pass, the two grow closer. At a bar, Frankie boasts about his new boo to his friend Jimmy. Jimmy hands him some cash to thank him for carrying his broke ass in the past. Frankie uses the cash to pay off Zora's piano that she had on layaway. Zora gets excited when she gets home and sees the piano. She settles to sing for Frankie, who falls in love with her amazing voice and melons. A few days later, Zora meets with a producer named Reg, hoping to get a record deal with him. She manages to impress him with her voice and gets a discount on his services. That evening during dinner, Zora notices Frankie's bad mood and questions him about it. Unfortunately, he reveals he dropped out of high school and he don't even got a GED. Also, he is separated from his wife, not divorced, and has 2 kids. Oh hell nah, get this dusty man away from our girl. The news sends chills down Zora's spine, and she feels betrayed because Frankie has lied to her. The following day, Zora meets Frankie while he is at work, and she admits she loves him. He promises to finalize his divorce with his ex once he gets his finances in order. Before leaving, Zora hands him the key to her house, inviting him to move in with her. Zora girl, you must be colorblind because you ain't see all the red flags. Initially, Frankie declines moving in because the rent is high, but he ultimately agrees after Zora insists he stay with her. They share a kiss at Zora's doorstep, which makes a nearby construction worker laugh at their optimism. One day, Frankie invites his kids, Marcus and Tyree, to spend time at Zora's apartment. She welcomes them warmly and teaches Tyree how to play a piece on her piano. Meanwhile, Marcus remains quiet and skeptical about the meet and greet, wondering when they will leave. Frankie's relationship with Zora has blossomed, and they often enjoy bedroom extracurricular activities, because apparently this girl attracted to broke homeless alcoholics. But one night, Zora gets an epileptic attack, and Frankie wakes up to stabilize her. The following morning, he takes care of her and asks why she didn't tell him the truth. She answers saying that most guys claim they can handle her condition, but run off after seeing it. Frankie feels bad after hearing this and promises to take care of her. Oh, no wonder she's desperate for a dusty man. Around noon, Vinny removes Frankie from a job because Vinny's relative will be replacing him. Vinny also spits out some microaggression. This frustrates Frankie, who quits his job and walks away. The following day, he joins Zora for dinner at Claudette's house and notices that their host is wealthy. While everyone eats, Frankie criticizes their interest in music, saying Taylor Swift only for white people. His behavior irritates Zora, but she remains calm until the dinner ends. On their way home, she confronts him about his attitude, which only makes Frankie more upset. She learns he quit his job the previous day, but encourages him to join the union. Frankie feels bad for himself since he thinks he will not go far in life. He craves a contractor's license but says he needs to get his GED first. Zora notices his frustration and promises to foot the bills until he gets a new job. In the end, they smoothen things over by going to bed and banging the headboard. This was the perfect time to leave after getting your vag filled. But yo dumb self keep trucking. About a week later, Zora meets Reg and gets complimented for her voice again. He presents an opportunity for her to get signed by a record label, and she gets excited about it. Over the weekend, Zora meets Frankie's parents. His father, Mr. Smith, is very welcoming, but his mother is rude to Frankie and mocks his aspirations of getting certified and starting a business. Thankfully, Zora covers for him and makes Mr. Smith smile. One day, Zora gets weak and visits the hospital and finds out she is pregnant. Claudette insists that she tell Frankie at least, but Portia thinks it's none of his business. She believes Frankie does not deserve the right to know, since he has not married her yet, and insists on Zora getting an abortion. The next day, Zora fakes having a yeast infection to prevent Frankie from touching her goodies. Later, Frankie goes out to take out the trash, but takes longer than expected to return. He finally comes home drunk and accuses Zora of lying. He knows she is pregnant because he tracks her menstrual cycle, and he pleads with her to keep the baby. Although Zora believes the timing is not right, Frankie keeps begging that she should continue with the pregnancy, and eventually she agrees to keeping herself downtrodden. Miss Girl, that man a deadbeat to his current kids. He does not need a third to continue his disappearing acts. A few weeks later, Frankie manages to secure a union job. Meanwhile, Zora faces difficulties meeting Reggie's requirements because of the pregnancy. As a result, he threatens to drop her if she makes another mistake. This saddens her, but Frankie brightens her mood when she gets back. He tells her about his new job and tries to hit it, but Zora is too traumatized from getting pregnant. The following day, Frankie goes to work while Zora stays home to focus on her hit track for Reg. She dedicates so much time to the song that Frankie begins to feel excluded from her life. When he confronts her about it, she tries to explain her situation, but Frankie does not buy it since she barely keeps him satisfied. Excuse my finest pardon? She tired from carrying yo ass in the relationship. One day, Zora prepares to drop the hit track for Reg, and her friends sit in the studio to support her. Meanwhile, Frankie is somewhere in the city drinking his alopecious ass out. While at it, a woman from his past approaches him, wishing to taste his eggplant again. Clearly, she has missed it. Since he thinks with his balls, he agrees to take her on a ride, forgetting that it's Zora's big day. Back at the studio, Zora drops an amazing song that impresses Reg and her friends. Frankie arrives after some time and is amazed by her voice. He gives her flowers after she is done and settles things with her. The following day, Frankie joins his colleague for a drink during his lunch break. He returns to work but has an accident while under the influence. Zora is furious to hear this and gets even more mad, knowing he only got a few bucks saved up for the divorce. He claims to have been spending all his money on his kids. The next day, when Frankie meets his ex Pam, he tells her about his job situation and she gets upset. Turns out that she has been footing most of the kids' bills since Frankie was too broke. Pam says to have Zora call her so she can tell Zora that the big D ain't worth all the stress. This man been using black women as a crutch all his life. No wonder his mama hates him. It's Zora's birthday and her friends surprise her with gifts. Zora's left excited in the end, but her mood changes when Portia asks when her wedding ring is coming in. Zora looked like she finna slap our girl Regina. That evening, Frankie gets home late, almost forgetting that he made reservations for a concert for Zora's birthday. He apologizes for his inconsistencies. That D must be good because ain't no way. When they arrive, Frankie buys a regular seat, but Zora insists that he pay for a front seat since it's her birthday. As Frankie is broke, she ends up paying for it, which makes him angry. A heated argument begins after Frankie tears his ticket as he feels like Zora disrespected him in public. Meanwhile, Zora tries to make him understand that it's her birthday, but the drunk fool walks out on her after causing a scene. May this toxic relationship never find me. Despite her mood, Zora stays to enjoy her birthday and returns home to Frankie later. Seeing him in his state breaks her heart, but she eventually settles things with him. A few months later, Zora gives birth to a baby boy, and her father arrives at the hospital to check on her. Her friends and Frankie's children are also there, excited that Zora has completed her pregnancy. At one point, Zora's father speaks to Frankie, advising him to step up for his family. After Zora is discharged from the hospital, she returns home and is surprised to see all the things Frankie has made for the baby. Feeling the stress of her pregnancy, she lays down to rest while Frankie gently carries their baby and rocks him to sleep. The next morning, Frankie stands by the roadside, hoping to be picked up for work, but his efforts do not pan out. In an attempt to get a job, he fakes greeting Vinny, but that does not work either, as his pride prevents him from asking for his job back. One afternoon, Zora receives a call at work and learns that Frankie didn't pick up their baby from daycare. Give me Wesley Snipes and drag over this. She picks up the baby and heads home only to meet her deadbeat baby daddy lying comfortably on her couch. When asked why he didn't pick up the baby, he gives an excuse that he forgot. Zora also asks if he went out to find a job, but he says that the weather's too cold. While Zora gets the dishes, Frankie tells her to change the baby's diapers. She does it but is fed up with Frankie's hobosexuality since she is the only one footing the bills and caring for the baby. A heated argument begins when Zora tells him to consider another business route. Frankie objects, and the argument ends when he mentions that Reg called. Zora meets with Reg later that day and realizes he is done working with her. Turns out she has not released any new tracks in a while, and he is losing money because of it. Reg even says he now owns all of Zora's tracks until she buys him out. Zora's heartbroken, and she already done had enough by the time she home. Later, Frankie asks to speak to Zora, but she ignores him and takes a call with her friend instead. Frustrated, Frankie destroys the phone line and complains that Zora is only focused on herself. This annoys Zora, especially since she just got dumped by Reg. After their argument, Frankie gets drunk and attempts to make a move on Zora. She likes it at first, but she realizing she getting dickmatized and gets him to stop. Eventually, she leaves the house after telling him to be gone when she returns. After she leaves, Frankie trashes the place but spares the piano. Zora returns home the following morning with Portia and is shocked at what Frankie did. On New Year's Eve, Zora stays home alone, crying herself to sleep because she hasn't seen Frankie in a long time. Meanwhile, Frankie is at his house studying for a contractor's licensing exam. A few days later, he finds the courage to visit Zora and see her and the baby. Zora is shocked to see him, as she thought he was dead if not for the regular cash he sends her. After spending time with the baby, he speaks with Zora and tells her he is preparing for his licensing exam the following day. This news surprises her, but she is genuinely happy for him and wishes him luck. When he asks about her singing career, she replies that she is currently writing songs for the time being. Frankie then adds that he finalized his divorce with Pam. Before leaving, he tells Zora he couldn't see her in the past because he wasn't proud of who he was. Now he feels better and apologizes for taking so long. At the door, he expresses his love for Zora, which makes her emotional. Just before he leaves the building, she calls out to him and invites him over to play Scrabble, and you know what comes next. Child, this was a horror film. It's a cautionary tale. Literally shooketh that she ended up with that man. We can only hope he's forever changed, but I ain't doubt that he finna find the next woman to entrap. What did y'all think of this one?
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.